I want to say thank you for joining us. My name is Stacy Fritz. I am one of the patient advocates for Believe Big. I am also the moderator of this show, Food for Thought, and I have the pleasure. I don't know where I am, Paula, on the screen, but on my screen, you are this way. So if that's the case, this is Paula Weinberg. She is a oncology nutritionist. Her company is Healthspan. I got it, Healthspan Nutrition. And Paul and I have been together for quite some time now. We rotate our oncology nutritionists, but Paul is a fave of mine. And today, I don't know if you can tell, but we have changed the backgrounds a little bit. Today, we're going to be talking about nourishing greens, boosting the cancering journey. So some fun stuff for us planned today. And just because this is the cancering journey conversation does not mean you can't smile and have a good time, because that's what we want you to do. So again, feel free to come off of mute. Feel free to come off of video if you want to ask a question. We'll wrap it up in about 45 minutes to make sure we have time for questions at the end. One little tidbit. If you have a specific question related to your specific diagnosis, I would ask that you would hold that until the end, where I can give you my contact information. It's not that we don't want to be talking about that, but this is a more general webinar. So we want to make sure we give you access to the right person, which is going to be, Paula over here, if that's the way where she is on your screen, and I'll make sure I connect you for your specific questions. That said, I'm going to pass the baton to Paula. She's going to kick it off first. I'm going to get a turn today too. So I hope you enjoy the content, and let's give it a go.
Okay. Hi, everybody. We are going to get started. Let me just share my screen here and get us going. So to me, this is a topic I'm really excited about. I feel like people are either greens people and know how to use them and eat them and do all the things, or people are kind of intimidated by it, mystified by it, don't really know where to begin, maybe just never ever eaten these and don't know where to start. So this webinar today is intended to take down all those barriers and show you just how simple and easy, and try and find something that hits for you, because we're all different and we all have different preferences and needs. And so there should be a little something in here for everyone. At the end, I want you to share with me if there's anything you're inspired to make, or if you have something that you already make that you want to share with everyone else. So we're going to dive into how to really just add greens into your life. It's kind of sad to say, to start off, that about less than 10% of us are actually eating the recommended amount of servings of vegetables and fruits per day. This is a dietary guideline that's put out, sort of a general dietary guideline, but I personally recommend and eat a lot more than these servings. I don't necessarily eat that much fruit, but I do eat a lot more vegetables than 2.5 servings. And a serving size is a 1/2 cup cooked or a 1 cup raw. And so it's really easy to do. It adds up really quick, especially when you're using some of these recipes. You can knock out your whole day serving in one side dish. So I hope that kind of just excites you to kind of see if you can be one of those people that's really outside of the statistic, and I'll help show you, hopefully, how easy that is. So this is the overview of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to sort of break it down to cooking greens and using those in a cooked fashion, and then using them raw, and kind of different ways to do that. And hopefully, again, you find something that appeals to you. So we're going to run through these different ways. We're going to start out with some steamed greens. So I think of broccoli as sort of a mainstay of most people's diets. It certainly is in our house. It's in the rotation every week. And so I picked that, not because it's, special, but I had to pick something to kind of start with, because each green has different things to know about it, and we can't cover all the things. So I picked something that I feel like a lot of people eat. Getting nourishing greens starts with picking the best produce you have available to you. So when you pick a head of broccoli, you're looking for it to be bright green like this, no brown spots. When you look at the stem, whatever stem there is, you want to make sure it doesn't look real dried out, or even, sometimes real brown. That tells you kind of the age of the produce. And as things age, they lose their nutrients, just like us. So preferably you're buying one larger head versus a lot of little florets. I myself buy organic broccoli in a bag that's all cut up. And that's not necessarily the most nutritious, but I buy it. So we're always managing different things, whether it's availability, price, what looks better in the store that day, different things kind of motivate why we might buy certain things. But we're just kind of setting out there what's the best way to kind of do this. So you buy a larger head versus all the cut up florets, and you store it in a micro perforated bag. I forgot to grab them, but there are these reusable plastic bags that you can wash out when you're done. And you just take a little pin or a needle and you just prick it everywhere. You can't see the holes, but they're there. And it's just enough respiration to keep that broccoli super fresh. So that's the ideal way to buy it and store it. If you're going to use broccoli cooked, your ideal way to cook it is to steam it lightly. It should turn this bright, vibrant green, and you want to take it out when it does that. It's kind of done the magic from the steaming, and then you don't want to leave it in there because it'll continue to cook and overcook possibly. When it starts to get that darker, deeper kind of army green, you know you've gone past the point of where you want it to be. It still should be toothsome and kind of have a nice chew to it. It shouldn't be sort of soft and mushy. And frozen broccoli, a lot of people ask this question, is it as nutritious? Well, it's not. It's not as nutritious as raw, fresh broccoli is, but cooking it also takes away some of the nutrients. So it, again, depends on your preferences and your health concerns, your GI, ability. So I don't digest raw vegetables that are really fibrous like broccoli raw. I don't digest them very well. So I tend to cook mine. But it does, again, take away some of the nutrients. So frozen broccoli has to be steamed or lightly blanched before it's frozen, which already reduces some of the active compounds, the glucosinates, before it's even frozen. So you want to be careful how you cook that further. You don't want to be boiling it, because if you expose plants to water directly, a lot of the nutrients go out into the water, and you're unless you're using that water like in soup, when you add things to soup, that's fine because you're consuming the cooking liquid.
Yeah. Before you go any further, what I'm hearing you say, Paula, is that we're controlling what we can control. And there's all these different layers of how we could address, quote unquote, the broccoli. Out of everything that you said, true or false, and I am leading you a little bit, but I feel like whether or not you purchase it already chopped up and prepared and whatnot, or how you choose to consume it, whether it's steamed or from a frozen situation, for me, when you said the organic piece, this is one of those items that it might be worth it to invest in the organic if it's available to you, regardless of all the other decisions. We got to do what we got to do, but this is one bigger decision that is important. Is that true statement?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Yeah.
in general, I would say choose organic with everything and anything you put in your mouth. When that's possible and available to you, that's the sort of what I would go for. That's sort of the gold standard, if you would. It's not really the gold standard. I should correct myself. If you can grow your own food in your backyard and put no pesticides on it, even the better. That's probably the gold standard. So
Yes.
I'm not doing that. So I'm buying what's available to me. So I choose organic whenever possible. And again, the best vegetables to eat are the ones you will actually eat. So if you'll only buy frozen broccoli because that's the only thing, way you can manage it, then that's great. So we kind of, like Stacy was saying, we do the best we can with what we have, and the best vegetables to eat are the ones you will eat.
Good point.
So sauteed, there's a lot, kind of to unpack here. And I thought about demoing this, but I feel like I'm not a professional, don't have the setup with the cameras in the kitchen at all to really show this and make it interesting. So I'm going to leave the kale demo to Stacy in a minute, but this is the easiest way to me to get my greens in a daily basis. It's so simple to take some dark leafy greens like bok choy, kale, you name it, really anything you like, and saute them up with some other really strong anti-cancer foods, like a good quality extra virgin olive oil, some garlic, onions, shallots, leeks, mushrooms. And the thing that makes it to me really approachable is I love kale, but I understand not everybody loves kale. But I never eat kale plain. I wouldn't just saute plain kale and expect myself to enjoy that. It needs to be balanced. It does have a bitterness. It's a strong tasting vegetable, but I love it because when I pair it with other things that are sweeter, like you can pair it with carrots, you can pair it with zucchini. Sauteed mushrooms and onions are so naturally sweet. And those things really bring out a lot of beautiful flavor when they're all combined together. And again, this doesn't have to be precisely measured. You can do these things in the amounts that you prefer them, which is why I didn't put amounts, because when a recipe calls for 1 clove of garlic, I use 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe,
Yeah.
because I like that flavor and it's got good things in it for me. So, really the combination of greens is the greens with other foods that enhance and complement the flavor. And so an entry point green for that I recommend to people if you're not really sure and you don't like a strong taste is bok choy. It
Mm.
is so mild and so sweet to me naturally. It's sort of like the texture of like the stalk. Bok choy is sort of on that top picture, the whitish looking sort of end there with the leafy greens. That's bok choy in that top picture. And the stalk end of that white part kind of has almost a celery mixed with cucumber kind of texture. It's kind of crunchy when raw. Again, you can eat it raw or cooked. It wilts down quickly and easily, and it does definitely add a sweetness versus the kale adds more of a bitterness. So use whatever veggies you like, but I encourage you, if you're going to experiment with something to sort of saute for the first time and you want to like entry like baby step this for yourself, try bok choy. It's fabulous. Cooks so easily and simply. It's very forgiving. If you overcook it, it's soft, but that's fine too. It doesn't taste bad.
I think it's interesting that you bring that up because some of these bigger, deeper greens, I think people are really fascinated with it. But for the example of bok choy, you're like, what the heck do I do with this? Right. And so just starting off basic with just sauteing, like you mentioned, with some complementary anti-cancer herbs, spices, other vegetables, I think is just a great way to explore. Give it a try before you like toss it on out. Like we know, because based on the phytonutrients and the phytochemicals and all of these really rich colored vegetables, it's really important to our healing. And being able to, as we share with our kid programs, you want to be able to eat the rainbow. There's a reason why, because each of those different variables or options, shall I say, is going to give you something just a little bit different. So I really encourage that. Bok choy is very intimidating to me, Paula. It really is. That's one. I mean, I love to cook, but bok choy I kind of steer away from a little bit. And I will try that with the sauteing. That's great.
Easy. You just take it and literally, cut off that, end, of course, just like you would with like a head of lettuce or something. So you can eat the white part of it, but not the core. And you just, chop it up as you like, as you would with anything else, or you can chop it up into your salad and use it raw. It's very, again, sort of has a crunch to it, that white part. The stem is the leaf is very soft, very mild. I doubt you'll even taste it really much in your salad. And it's a really mellow, easy green. And it is the top number one plant green for calcium. It's a great source of calcium, non-dairy. So that's one of my number ones that I definitely
That's
advocate.
great. I thought it was broccoli, but that's great to know.
Yeah, bok choy is the main one. So we're going to move to roasted, another favorite of mine. And this is such an easy sort of low prep and low input because you can be doing other things. You get it going. And these days, I feel like they have all kinds of already pre-prepped veggies, especially broccoli, Brussels sprouts. So certain veggies really lend themselves to the roasting. A lot of people love to roast broccoli. I don't really like it roasted. It gets too, I don't like the darkness of it that gets in the oven and all that. So to each their own again. And with these, you just want to take them, get them ready. So like with asparagus, I would cut off that woody end. I tend to snap mine. So you find where it bends easily. And that's the point where it's, woody and you would cut it. So each one is going to be a little different. That way you make sure you kind of get each one right where it's optimal. And you're also not wasting, because if you cut them all at a certain point, you might be cutting off, a bite or two on each that could be good asparagus. So I tend to just bend them and do that. And if they're really thicker asparagus, I shave it with a vegetable peeler at the bottom. You just do a couple little shaves around like you would around peeling a carrot, and then pop off the end, and it becomes again much less woody. So you prep those, you put them on a sheet pan, and you want to just slather them in a good healthy fat. Season them to your liking. You put anything you want on them, really. Italian seasoning, salt and pepper. You can put turmeric on them. You can put anything you like on them. I've noted here, this top pan looks like an aluminum pan. Aluminum and stainless steel have a different color tone to them, which made me kind of remember to put this on here. Avoid using nonstick sheet pans and aluminum pans, because those things can release negative compounds into the food that are, toxic to our bodies. And we don't want to add toxic things while we're trying to do good and eat our veggies.
Good, good, really good.
So I'm going to turn it over to Stacy here for her famous kale chip.
I get to go first. I'm really excited about this one because I think that the recipe that I'm going to share with you hits two things, and I'll speak for myself. One, when you make a kale chip, you get the crunch. And I think for many of us, the crunch is sometimes extremely satisfying. It's something that we're craving. And this does that away from, say, a potato chip. Second thing is I very much love kale, and yet I'm a little kale challenged when it comes to, I also don't eat necessarily raw kale, like in a salad and whatnot. So this is an answer to that. The only other thing is something we're going to talk about later. I try to put as much kale using like a smoothie methodology. So at any rate, the crunch, being able to eat a bunch of these and have them taste really good. And I'm going to also show you a way to season them. So I'm going to lift up my bowl. This is my clean kale parts, I will say. I've already done the majority of the work, meaning I've cut them down to small bite-sized pieces. That's not enough because I want to show you something. This, and I know you're going to know what I'm talking about. When you buy kale, it tends to have this stem in the middle, and it's really hard. So if you've ever tried to make kale chips, this is the sucker that gets in the way. Why? It doesn't cook at the same rate as the leaf does. So you end up having to cook it longer, burnt leaves, and then this is just a tough, unneeded. Now, I don't like to throw it away for my future farm for composting. That said, I don't have my farm yet. So what I do is when I destem, I take them off and I put them in a glass bowl, and I will save them. If I make a soup or a stew or a smoothie, there's some still really good stuff in there. So you probably don't want to throw it away. But for the kale chip recipe, all you want is the leaves. So what I do is I go through each of the leaves after I cut them down, and I take off the stems, put them in that separate bowl, and you'll end up with just a bowl of leaves, which looks like this. Same as what Paula says, I toggle between two because sometimes I worry about the high heat. I'm going to be using an air fryer today. So this would be a really good olive oil. It's in a glass bottle. It's organic, straight from Italy, mainly made from those olives. We don't have any other extra ingredients. I love that. Or I cheat a little bit and I use a brand called Chosen, and it's my avocado oil, which tends to cook better at a higher heat. So for today, I'm just going to use this one to show you how simple. I'm going to just do a quick spritz on there. While they're wet, I'm adding Himalayan sea salt, which doesn't always look bright white. I'm just adding a little bit, and it's going to stick to those leaves that I just coated with the oil, and I'm just tossing it up. How simple is this? I've got my air fryer here. I'm dumping the leaves inside of there, and I'm setting, I don't even have to set it. My air fryer starts at 370. And by the way, you'll get all the recipes in the playback from Paula and I, so you don't feel like you have to write anything down. I'm just closing that air fryer. I'm turning it on for exactly 5 minutes. I'm not even going to use the full 5 minutes. After every 2 minutes, I'm pulling it out and I'm just shaking it up. What you're going to get when it's finished is something that looks like this. while they're warm is a great time for you to turn around and add whatever seasoning. For me, and I'm really curious because I didn't tell Paula I was doing this. This is my secret. I'll call it a cheat, but I don't mean it like that. I love cheesy anything. So I use nutritional yeast. And while the kale chips are still warm, I sprinkle the nutritional yeast on there so they'll stick. And then what I have is cheesy kale chips. So give it a go. Like I said, I'm talking 5 minutes, y'all. There's nothing, no big deal. My kale leaves were organic, and I did buy a whole big bunch of them to be able to chop down. But just like Paula said, you can even buy them in a bag already torn for you. Just make sure you get rid of those leaves. Anybody have any questions about the kale chip before we move on? Paula, you add anything to mention there? Do you want to talk about the nutritional yeast? Are you okay with that?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great non-dairy cheesy option. I love that you're repurposing your kale stems. So
Yes.
if we have time at the end of this, if you buy, long whole kale leaves, I'll show you how to destem them with your hand real quick.
Oh,
We'll leave that to the end. But yeah, that's a fabulous way to eat the kale chips. And the good news is they're like potato chips in that you can just eat the whole thing. You can eat a whole bunch of kale and like
whole
literally
bunch
a
of
whole
kale.
bunch.
And they taste, and with that nutritional yeast or any other, when you get the recipe for our listeners, I put on there 6 or 7 different combinations. You can eat them plain with just some sea salt and that avocado oil. They taste delicious. Really, they do. Remember, the name of the game is trying to get as many in as possible. Just to circle back to what Paula said, our mantra again when we work with kid programs is strive for 5 servings of vegetables. Remember what the average is, 2 to 2.5. Strive for 5. 9 is divine. To get to 9, challenge yourself a little bit. It actually, I know Paula and I geek out on the subject. Sometimes I laugh because I wonder what you're thinking when you're sitting there, like, why do they care about greens so much? But we do. And this doesn't have to be a process of have to. It can be a process of you get to. And to be curious about healthy food is a passion of mine. I hope that we are sending that out to you all because not only are you going to feel better, but it is also extremely supportive on this journey. So just think about it. Kale chips are your friend, and you can flavor them in many, many different ways.
Yeah.
Send it back to you, Paula.
Absolutely. And I mean, personally, when I roast, Brussels sprouts or asparagus, I can like eat them like candy to me. And they are just the kind of thing that I can almost kind of overeat.
So wait, let's see how much we're geeking out. If you feel comfortable, put in the chat whether or not this is a recipe that you would eat a whole bunch of. Could you see yourself consuming a ton of kale chips? Just yes or no, or come off, 100%. I will eat it for sure, Kristen says. Great. Please go right ahead,
Awesome.
Paula.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad and hopefully we're showing you just how simple and few
Simple.
steps there are involved to getting this going for yourself as a
Agreed.
rotation in your own household. Stuffed greens. I had to put this in. My mom is Polish. I grew up eating what are called gołąbki, which is stuffed cabbage.
Say it again. What's it called?
Gołąbki.
I love that word. I've never heard it.
Yeah, that's the Polish, name for these. And I love them. They're sort of they are home to me. If you sat me down in front of a big this I don't think is quite cooked, which it photographs more beautifully cabbage before it's cooked because it's that vibrant green. This is Savoy cabbage, but you basically take large cabbage leaves, you blanch the leaf, meaning you dip it in boiling water for a second to kind of soften it and make it pliable. And then you stuff it with, ground meat and cooked rice and seasonings. And then you just roll it up, but make a little package, and then you put them in a tomato sauce and you cover it and cook it for a nice long time. It's delicious. So it's another easy way to kind of get your greens. And I think it's a taste of home. We're going to switch over to soups real quick. And while I'm not going to spend a lot of time right now kind of walking through and talking about soups, because this to me feels a little more accessible. Most people have eaten soup, most people have made soup, but there's so many varieties and versions. And so some of these are quick, some of these are involved, and I want to kind of give the reader the option of all of them. Quick vegetable soup. This is something you can kind of grab and go. There's a quick recipe at the end. We'll get to all the recipes toward later. Magic mineral broth. That's a full days of cooking at least, not active cooking, but cooking on the stove after you do a good bit of prep. So that one's much more involved. You make that on a weekend.
And we did this webinar together, Paula. So what we'll do is we'll link back the recipe for the magic mineral broth, because I think that that is the gold standard. The one that recipe that you gave is just too good not to pass forward. You know what I mean? We can link
Are
it
you
back to
thinking
that.
of are you thinking of the bone broth one we did?
I'm thinking of that, but then you also put in there the magic mineral broth recipe as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't remember that we included that at the end, but this is a great one. It's from Rebecca Katz, who is a professional chef that invented and created this recipe for her dad who was going through cancer.
Mm,
And so it is rich with nutrients. It's a great electrolyte. It's just wonderful, and it makes a lot of soup, and you can freeze it and then have it. It's not the kind of thing you have to cook every week.
love it.
And this Gigi's Garden Soup is for Stacy's mom. This is her famous vegetable soup that she makes, and so we'll let Stacy talk about that as we get to the recipe toward the end.
Yep.
And of course, we're getting into warmer weather. It's cold soup maybe appealing soon in the summer months, and so avocado cucumber soup is great, and gazpacho is of course a traditional classic tomato based. It's sort of like eating a salad, but without the salad greens, and it's all blended in your food processor. So tomatoes, cucumbers, bell peppers, onions, that kind of thing, all blended, and it's wonderful. So those things, especially the cucumber avocado soup for someone who's going through treatment, if that's something that is appealing to someone wanting something cold and soothing, but yet very nourishing, that could be something for the summer. We're going to talk about doing wraps using greens for instead of
Bread.
tortillas or bread kind of products. This is really popular in my house to use lettuce leaves. I have even witnessed my husband kind of growing into his own responsibility and care of himself with he decided he was going to get rid of the bread he would use for sandwiches on his own, and he didn't like kale, didn't really appeal to him for this purpose. So he's like, I'm going to try it with collards. So those leaves are huge, especially in the summer. They can really come in really large, and which is wonderful for rolling them into a wrap. So you take a collard leaf after you wash it. Again, always buy organic if possible. After you wash it well, you can either pour boiling water over it from like your tea kettle, hold it over the sink, super simple, or just get a frying pan, fill it with water and boil it, and then just dip the leaf in, and then you've blanched it. So you just need a couple seconds to kind of soften and very lightly cook that leaf, and it makes it really nice and pliable, makes it more pleasant to taste and eat as well. You blanch it, you just take a little small knife, remove that very big stem with a knife, and then you overlap those two sides that you don't have to fully separate the leaf, but where that thick stem is. And then you just overlap that and you layer it and put whatever you'd put in your sandwich. And then you just roll it up and you have that. It is so filling and so delicious. And my husband notes the huge difference in himself when he used to take a sandwich versus when he uses the wrap. He is not hungry for 4 or more hours after he eats a collard wrap sandwich. When he's eaten a regular sandwich, he's hungry in about an hour and a half.
Why do you think that is? It's two things, the glucose spike, and then do you also think it's the fiber in the vegetables?
I think it's all those things. And when your cells are satisfied nutritionally on a deep level with lots of nutrients, and your body's busy breaking that all down in its slow and quiet way, because that's how natural foods are versus sugars, which is like a fast release of energy that just vanishes and burns off quick. This is so nourishing on a deep level. I feel like your cells are just perfectly happy and content and have what they need. And the fiber, of course, also helps with that long-term satiety, I think. But
It's unbelievable.
yeah, he really he decided to do it on his own, and he was shocked at the difference in how he felt and how he enjoyed this more. You can also do the same thing with cabbage. Savoy cabbage has that nice, pretty look to it. It's a little bit like wrinkly. And those leaves tend to be beautiful looking. You can either use them raw or again, blanch them like the collard leaf, wrap it, fill it up with whatever you'd have on your sandwich. And it's great. And he even does this to take it to work. So it's not a difficult thing to do. You can wrap it in the morning and put it in your little lunch box, and it'll be good for you later in the day.
That's awesome.
So smoothies, hopefully I'm not going too fast, but we have a lot of things, a lot of ideas to get through. So I want to make sure we have time. So this is an area where I feel like people miss the boat a lot, right?
Agreed.
They end up piling, all their favorite fruits in their blender and drinking it. And that's, to me, not really the point of a smoothie. The point of a smoothie is to have something sort of creamy, frozen-ish, and delicious, but that's also really nourishing. And to do that, you really have to balance this as a meal like you would anything else. You wouldn't sit down to a plate of just a big pile of fruit and say, here's my meal for the day, like, or for the moment, so you shouldn't do that with a smoothie either. You want to make sure it's balanced with all the macronutrients, just like a meal. So protein, fat, and carbs. Protein you get from either nuts and seeds or a protein powder. Fat you get from these various sources here. And carbs, again, this is the tricky one. I like to use a small serving of a low glycemic fruit like berries or dark cherries. You can also add citrus if you like that flavor. And then the larger servings of carbohydrates in the smoothie should be something vegetable based. It doesn't have to be green, but this is where I like to get the greens in, because you don't taste them the way you do on your plate when they're mixed with the fruit and the other components. So you can do a lot of transformation with those greens and really hide a lot of stuff in, like sort of when my kids were younger, I'd buy these cookbooks about sneaking it in. This is a great place as an adult to sneak it in, even though you're doing it yourself and you see it. Another option to kind of helping with the greens is you can mildly cook the greens, and that also kind of takes them down and mellows them, as well as reducing some unwanted compounds. For example, raw kale. If you were to eat raw kale every day and you're iodine deficient, you find yourself having some thyroid sluggishness, because some of the compounds in kale and cruciferous vegetables can be what's called goitrogens and interfere with the uptake of the thyroid hormones. And so you want to make sure that's only an issue when you're eating large volumes of a lot of raw cruciferous vegetables and you're iodine deficient. So you want to make sure you're getting a good source of iodine in your diet daily and regularly. And for me, I use Maine Coast seaweed flakes, and I'll put them, I know they're probably backwards in your screen, but at least you can kind of see the bottle, and it comes out and it's little tiny flakes, kind of looks like chili pepper flakes, that sort of thing, but it does not have the taste. It's not hot or spicy. In fact, I don't taste it at all. I don't detect a flavor from it. I wouldn't put it on something sweet. Maybe you'd taste it then. If anything, it's got a mild saltiness to it, but I don't really detect it in my savory food at all. So you just want to make sure, again, if you like to eat kale, perhaps give it a quick little light steam before, and you can do this for the whole bunch. You don't have to steam your kale every single time. You just steam it when you get it home from the store, leave it in your fridge steamed, and then you can add it to your little stir fry. You can add it to your smoothie. You can kind of have this versatile thing. When I cook greens or make these things, I make larger portions and I have them as leftovers throughout the week. So when I get my kale, I do cook it lightly, and then I use it for a variety of things. And of course, you can add spices and different things to kind of zhuzh it up and make it taste however you like. Like if you like that ginger kind of bite and spice that ginger brings, wonderful. It's very good, very anti-cancer. And if this is all still a little bit too, how shall we say, aggressive for you in terms of like your palate, you might not be able to like welcome that dark leafy green in your smoothie quite yet. Try it and add a little sweetener, maybe just a little, and kind of just enough to make it delicious to you. And then over time, maybe you can step that down. Because even though monk fruit and sweeteners like that are not going to spike your blood sugar, we don't want to get the palate so used to this really overly strong sweet taste that everything else kind of pales in comparison, because that is going to change your palate and your perception of, a carrot isn't going to taste sweet to you if you're used to really like going hard on the sweeteners.
Mm.
So anything you want to add in there about smoothies, Stacey?
Nothing except for I want to just comment on the fat, that when you find that high quality fat, that is the creaminess that brings to, so again, that looks like a beautiful green smoothie to me. I live with people that probably would not touch that, but I call that the green monster smoothie. It's very famous, lots of people know about that recipe, but it tastes unbelievable. In part, I think because of the avocado that's in there. That really steps up the game. And again, for me, for my smoothies, I'm looking for how much can I get away with? How much can I pack in there and still have it taste like not the grass? You know what I mean? So anyway, I think that looks beautiful.
It's a
Beautiful.
great place to kind of sneak it in. And even things like cauliflower, if you're not a fan of the taste of cauliflower, if you take raw cauliflower and blend it in your smoothie, I guarantee you won't even detect it in there.
Amazing. Amazing.
So now here we're getting to my demo little section, and I gonna talk to you about herb sauces, and we can kind of put it under the pesto-ish category, but nothing that I'm gonna make or recommend here has dairy in it. I don't eat dairy, and I don't recommend dairy for my clients that I work with when they're going through cancer. Dairy can be a growth promoting food, and it can be full of unwanted things for our health. So at any rate, you're welcome to do different if you want to, but right now, we're going to focus on what I call either impesto, sort of like a pesto impersonator, because there is no dairy in it. But you can also call it an herb puree, what have you. But it is so simple and so easy to make. I'm just going to grab my things here. I'm going to push this back a bit so that hopefully you can see me a little bit better. And I'm going to point you down toward my cooking area. So I'm going to show you how quick and easy this is to make. This is a mainstay in our house, and this is something I'm going to use for dinner. So we've got our pesto leaves here. This is nothing better than the smell of pesto to me. Oh my gosh, it is. I wish we had smell-o-vision, because this is amazing. I've got about a third of a cup of walnuts. If this doesn't look like enough when I buzz it, I'll just add a little bit more. So I use organic raw walnuts. I'm going to add that to my food processor right over there. And I'm going to also, here's my garlic. I'm using 2 cloves. They're kind of large, and that's going to be probably plenty for this, what will condense down to a pretty small batch of pesto. And then lemons. I've got 2 lemons because they're on the smaller side, and I like lemony flavor. So I'm going to zest these first, which I'll show you. And I'm going to get this garlic going through my little garlic press, because even though this is going to get buzzed in a food processor, you could end up with chunks of garlic if you put this whole clove in. And I don't know about you, I like garlic, but I really don't want to bite into a chunk of garlic when I'm eating my pesto. So I'm going to kind of get this into my little garlic press. If you guys don't have one of these, it's great and super easy. You just take your cut garlic, put it in there, and I'll show you what comes out the other end in a second. And you just kind of, it's in the little container there, and you press down, and it squeezes out. And I got a little juice there that came out, which is great. We want that. I need 2 hands here, or bigger muscles. And I scrape off the end, and I still have one more to do. Hopefully, are you able to see this well enough, Stacey?
I can see it great. I can see it great. So when you're up in the video, it's showing you and not necessarily the slide. So if somebody, just as a reminder, we will be sharing all the recipes and the links to the recipe. So if you just want to watch Paula demo, it's fine. I can see you great.
Oh, it's not sharing my screen still?
So it's got you on. It's okay. Just keep going. I promise you're fine.
All right, so now we're just doing the 2nd clove of garlic in here, just pressing that out, and it comes out nicely.
Paula, is that Pampered Chef?
This is not. I know of Pampered Chef, and this is not because I broke my garlic press recently, and I sent my husband out to get me a new one. So I don't know where this is from or where it, what brand it is, but I know that brand well. That was a big thing when the kids were little. I feel like people always had those parties in their house, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna try to get out all that good garlic because it does kind of get it up inside there. So you have to like dig for it. So I'm gonna let you in on a garlic secret. So when you're preparing garlic to use in a raw setting like this, it's totally fine to just chop up your garlic, mince your garlic, press your garlic, and go right away to use it. If you're cooking your garlic, you need to let it rest.
Mm.
So crushing the garlic first, letting it rest for 10 minutes, allows the garlic to turn its allicin to allicin, or maybe the other way around. I can never remember. It's either allicin to alanine, or anyway. So there are compounds in there that need to be crushed to be activated. And those are the magical compounds that are so good for us. And if you crush it and put it right away to heat, it destroys that enzymatic process and it stops that medicinal quality. It's not going to be bad for you, of course, but it is going to be lower in medicinal quality. So I'm going to buzz this really quick because I want to buzz my walnuts first before I add the herbs in, because I like to get them really fine. So this is going to be, actually, should I mute myself for a second so I don't buzz?
You can. And in the meantime, she's buzzing through. Make sure, for our listeners, if you have questions, I'm sitting right here and happy to answer any questions that you might have as she's blending it up. We are at 12:40, Paula. So we just have a few more moments. I want to give her a chance to blend that. And also make sure we have enough time to answer any of your questions if anything has popped up. And we'll just wait.
I am just zesting this lemon. You want to make sure when you do that, this is a little zester, but you can use your box grater as well. And you just want to get just that brightly colored yellow off. You don't want to go down too far into that white pith because that's bitter. And so I love the zest, and the zest is where all the great qualities of the lemon are in terms of health and medicine. So you want to, if you use a lemon, try to zest it first and use that. Of course, if you're going to zest, you want to buy organic and wash it well before you zest. I would not zest and use regular lemons. They're heavily sprayed.
That's very good to know.
So I am almost done zesting, and this will be literally done in just a minute. I'm just going to finish zesting. You could see I kind of got down to the white areas, and then I'm going to add my basil. So here's my basil going in. It looks
How much
like
would you say that is? Is like two cups or so?
it probably is about 2 cups. I used it's 2 of these containers that I got at the store. It came in a little. It is this is 1¼ ounce. So that's 2½ ounces. Another quick cheat for garlic, if you don't like to mess with garlic, you can buy these little frozen cubes of garlic and put that in instead.
Wow.
Again, even quicker and less. It's not organic, but it is a quick little hack for getting your garlic, and it's in the freezer. So I buy mine at Trader Joe's. And I'm gonna squeeze the juice in here, and then we're gonna buzz it all up. And here we go.
We must be doing an amazing job because nobody's got any questions for us. Martha's got nothing on us.
Well, that's good to know. I may add more lemon after I taste this, but right now I'm just going to add 1 lemon and the zest from that. And we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to first buzz this, and then we'll see if it needs anything else. Let me just, and I'm going to mute myself. Stacy, you can chat.
Yep. We are at 12:45. So as she's blending up, just a reminder, if you came in a little bit late, we are talking about nourishing greens and how that gives our journey a little bit more of a boost. And so we're trying to figure out ways that we could add all of this lovely greens in every single place, just a little bit more. So we were demoing both the kale chip and then also the pesto, but certainly lots of other ways to get those greens in. And I'd be curious as she's blending, maybe if you can think of if there's something that we haven't said as a way that you get your greens in, please feel free to put that in the chat. Remember, we're all learning from one another. Paula and I are not the end all be all. We are two people that are quite passionate about healing through food. And I'd love to know if you all have any other additional ideas or ways that you get your vegetables in during the course of the day. Oh, yes. So, Paula, as you're doing that, we're going to comment. I'm glad that you brought that up. I think it was Sandy that said so. Green juicing. So lots and lots of different opinions on juicing. For me, and when Paula's finished, I do want her to chime in on this. You got to be careful with green juicing because even though it's awesome, it's lovely, it's wonderful, we lose a lot when we do the juicing process for a variety of reasons. So how I manage green juicing is I do it and I also buy it and I use that as my liquid when I'm making the smoothie. Green juicing is, like I said, there is Chris Wark, who is, hot on the juicing. I am not going to dispel anybody's, way of addressing that. It's just that the same way I feel about protein bars and bars in general. It is not the end all be all. And we want to make sure that we represent the whole vegetable, not just the juice, because what we take out from the juice, that's important too. And that's a lot of fiber and a lot of other things that just making sure that that's not our only go-to for our vegetables. Paula, would you add anything else to that or agree or?
Agree completely. And it's a great way, especially for someone who's really compromised when their GI tract is really compromised, which can be, during treatment. That's a way to really readily nourish the cells. And there's very little digestion that has to happen, but it can really spike your blood sugar. And again, like Stacey said, you're leaving out the fiber and the substance of the plant behind. And so there are benefits to juicing, but there are also downsides. So it's a caution food for me.
Well, and Sandy just beat us to it because she keeps the puree or the pulp afterwards, and you can do all kinds of things with that, right? You can, mix that into smoothies and you could pick it up another way. Sandy, you got the right idea. Just knowing that we're not solely relying on a juice. Remember, there's a whole spectrum to this, and juicing is not bad, certainly not even for a second, but we want to make sure that we have that whole picture covered and we don't heavily lean on just juice.
Yeah.
How'd you do, Paula?
I'm going to try to move quickly through this. So here is my pesto kind of.
Oh my goodness, yummy.
Just again, the garlic, the lemon, the basil leaves, olive oil, and the walnuts. And I just put that in, buzzed it up, and that's going to be my pesto sauce for, it'll be pasta. It'll be gluten-free pasta noodles for my daughter. I'll either use miracle noodles or zucchini noodles. So everybody kind of has their own way, but I'm not going to spend time on this one. This slide, you guys can investigate yourself by going to that link. There's a version of like an herb sauce in every culture and multiple ones, of course, but these are some of the more famous ones. And there's links to recipes there. And this is just sort of more inspiration because if maybe something really calls to you the way a certain food and country does their sauce, and you really like that angle and that flavor. So you can really take this green concept of, pureeing herbs down. Herbs are so potent in their anti-cancer benefits. Parsley is a huge one. It has a lot of apigenin that's really well studied for anti-cancer benefits. So when you're using these sauces, you are getting medicine in your food. Salads. A lot to say about this, but at the same time, we all have eaten and had salads and made salads, so it's not, foreign to us, but some tips and tricks to make this sort of maximize it. The darker the leaf, in terms of the browns, reds, purples, and the deep greens, those are the most nutrient rich. You can start with whatever salad greens you like, but again, you can maximize by choosing those darker leaves, darker color, like a red leaf lettuce versus, you know, a Boston. I love the flavor of Boston, but I'm trying to think, what's the other iceberg, the old school iceberg that doesn't really have a lot of nutrient value. It has a lot of good, you know, hydration to it, but it's not really going to give you a lot of nutrients. Then you can add some of these other more unique greens like arugula and radicchio and endive that have a stronger flavor. You can kind of get your palate used to those. Add any veggies you like. There's so many things to say about, you know, like red onions and shallots. Those are great things. They have quercetin in them, and the color in the red onion is, of course, you know, bringing you different nutrients than, you know, a yellow or a white onion. So if you can choose colors, choose colors. A great way. Oh, I almost forgot because I'm rushing. I'm going to show you another pesto hack. So if I were making this pesto just for myself, I would have put in some of these microgreens, these sprouts. They're a little too strong for my daughter. She will not like pesto with heavy sprout into there, especially arugula, which has a stronger peppery kind of more bitter taste. But there are broccoli sprouts and different kinds of sprouts that you can get at the store. And I highly recommend these. This is nutrition bang for your buck. You can't really even quantify it, because these baby greens are hundreds of times more nutrient dense than
Buy that. Where did you buy those microgreens?
the microgreens. I see these at Whole Foods. I see them at Fresh Market. But I don't know. I'm sure there are other places as well, but they come in this little sort of skinny little tray, but there's a lot in here. And again, these are so potent. So you don't need a lot of these to equal many servings of, you know, if you got broccoli sprouts, for example, you know, a small handful of these is like eating a small mountain of broccoli. So in terms of nutrition. So I'll put those away later. Storing things, again, salad greens like that micro-perforated bag as well. Most kind of greens do. Fresh herbs, if you get them home from the store, put them in a vase, like kind of situation in your fridge. They do better there, or putting some dampness into the bag, but that can get tricky because you really want to do it with like a paper towel. You don't want them sitting in water, and then paper towels have chemicals on them, so it's easier to do the glass. And don't shy away from the dressing and the healthy fats, because that's what helps and aids a lot of the nutrient absorption, and of course makes everything taste much better too. Salad dressing is a big caution for me. Most people are using salad dressings that I would not, you know, hope for them to use, because of the oils primarily, and sometimes the sugar content, and sometimes even the other ingredients. But you want to have as few ingredients as possible in your salad dressing. You want to make sure it's with a healthy oil base. You want extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil, something that like that. Most times that's all I see in a bottle brand that, you know, you can have available to buy. But if you're making it at home, I highly recommend a good quality extra virgin olive oil, because that's going to give you a lot of medicinal qualities. And again, I think Stacy mentioned this before, if you're using raw kale, it really needs some love before you can sit down and enjoy that and digest it. You have to sort of massage some either oil or acid into the leaves before you're going to enjoy a kale salad. But and we talked already about the eating too much raw kale or cruciferous veggies. And so we're kind of just going to scoot through some of these recipes, which you can, again.
You know what I'll do, Paula, is I will copy those links. And when we do the replay link in those show notes, all of the things that we talked about today, we'll just put a clickable link in there so folks can find what you were talking about. I'm super excited to not only try the leaves instead of, I'm not a huge sandwich eater, but that looked really interesting to me. It really did. And to be able to, my inspiration now is about the salads, to be able to incorporate, how can I get really diverse with those various vegetables to add them in? I think that's huge. I sort of play a game with it because I know how great that is for our health. And we're getting ready to approach the summer months, which means to me, farmer's market, which means finding a farmer's market that's really committed to organic growth for their crops and whatnot, their produce. I think it's a really exciting time to try to figure this out. And as you and I say every single time we come on Food for Thought, none of this information is meant or intended to be overwhelming. And I know firsthand that it is, right? Because we're throwing a lot of stuff at you. But if you take away one or two things from each of the webinar and just start to infuse them, play, be curious, like my favorite show, Ted Lasso, be curious and see if you can find and change the palette a little bit. You will be really amazed at not only developing those flavors, but then you will start craving them, right? And so it's just a different way of looking at food that I love when you said, Paula, the medicine. Your food is medicine. And we need to remember that. So what we're taking in, we don't want that to be toxic. So we want that to be life-giving, not life-stealing. And so just play around. I happen to think that the kale chip might be the easiest one to try to figure out because if you like the way it tastes, you will have no problem getting to the bottom of a crunch because no, it doesn't taste like a potato chip, but we have that same feel, if you will. So I'm excited to hear your feedback. If you try anything, don't hesitate. And I promised you a couple of moments if anyone has any questions directly for Paula, or allow me to give you my email address, which is stacy@believebig.org. And if you need Paula for something more direct, more customized for your journey, that's what we're here for, is to connect you to the right people. And Paula is one of those right people. So again, I want to give you a couple more moments. We are right at 12:56. I think we did a unbelievable job, Paula. We got 2 recipes in under an hour with all of that great content. So please feel free to jump in there for any final thoughts, any final questions. If not, we'll let you go like 3 minutes early.
Can I just wrap up, Stace?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've got some, recipes in there that you all can look through the slides on when you get them. But I wanted to say, if you still haven't connected with anything that looks appealing to you in this, world of adding more greens into your life, how about dessert? Like avocado pudding. This tastes unbelievable.
Oh, I forgot
Easy
about that you were
and
going to do this.
delicious. And this is a way to get your greens in without eating, a salad. And so even if this is just your entry point, I encourage you to kind of take a chance and try something a little bit new. See how your body feels, stay tuned in, listen to the feedback. And I think when you see how well you feel, when you try some of these things, it will be self-motivating because once you go into this, you'll find yourself, like Stacy and I, how can I get, a different color in here? How can I get another serving of something in? So hopefully, again, we'd love to hear from you, whether you have something in mind you want to try from this webinar, or if you have something you want to share with us that we should try.
Good stuff. I don't think we have any questions, Paula, which is, again, I'm going to go with, we must have just done an incredible job today that we've answered every single question. Nobody has anything that they need to find out more about. So with that, I just want you to know from Paula and me, we love you very much. We're praying up for you. We look forward to hearing from you. Again, Stacy@believebig.org. I will connect you directly to Paula, I promise. And if you have any additional questions that I might be able to answer as a patient advocate, please don't hesitate. Have a wonderful week, and we will see you in a few weeks. Paula, I love you, and thank you for coming on again.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Take
Take care,
care.
everyone. Bye-bye.